Welcome to the Daily MBA, where business wisdom is served fresh and fast, straight from one of the top MBA programs in the world. I'll give you summaries of my lectures and readings, as well as the most important insights gained from an MBA, so you can apply all of this knowledge in every business. Let's get started. On today's episode, I'm going to wrap up everything that we've been learning about business analysis. Because we already went through the basics, we did the 4 steps, which are strategic analysis, accounting analysis, financial analysis, and perspective analysis, and now we already have the value of the firm. So we're done, right? Well, not exactly. Or we could be done, but it's nice to do an extra analysis that is going to lead us to be a little bit more careful, and this one is going to be called the fixed income analysis. This analysis is going to focus more on assessing the risk and return of debt instruments such as bonds, but unlike equity analysis, which emphasizes on the profitability, fixed income analysis is going to concentrate on the downside risk. So briefly, we're going to do the exact same analysis, but now not looking for the good things, but for the bad things and all of the risks that are possible. And why are we going to do this? Mostly for risk management, to make sure that we're not making any other mistake in the way. So I left this to the end because this is a bit of an optional thing. It's just if you want to be more careful and more cautious in your business analysis and your investment decision, credit ratings, or even mergers and acquisitions. So when it is a big decision, companies will for sure do fixed income analysis. But this is going to involve tailoring the strategic, accounting, and financial analysis to address the specific characteristics of debt instruments. And again, I'm going to emphasize on the difference. Here, we're going to focus on the risk because we're going to prioritize risks over profitability. And so this is going to involve critically analyzing events that will increase the riskiness of the debt. A significant part of the fixed income analysis is going to also be predicting the likelihood of bankruptcy. So if I invest in this company, how likely is it to either get bankrupt or to decrease its profitability? And so common methods are going to include 2 things that I'm going to dive a little bit further into: Altman's C-score and Olson's O-score model. These 2 models are good for predicting bankruptcies, but they're also going to be balancing type 1 and type 2 errors. And this may take you back to my episode about statistics, but so type 1 and type 2 errors are misclassifications of things. If we think of type 1 error, it would be classifying a company as safe when it ultimately defaults. So this is going to be very costly for a company or an investor. And type 2 error would be classifying a company as at risk or at default when it is actually stable. So this mistake is going to be, or this error, in better words, it's going to be less costly, but it's still going to be an error. So what Altman's C-score and Olson's O-score are trying to predict is how can we minimize these 2 types of errors. And if you're thinking, well, why should I do this analysis? It's going to be mostly 3 reasons. You'll focus on loss protection, you'll adapt your analysis into being more risk averse, and so this will help you better manage your investment decisions. There's always a famous quote that you can remember when you're doing this, and it's that Warren Buffett gives you 2 rules for investment. First, never lose money, and second, don't forget rule number 1. So if you're trying to avoid losses, this is going to be a very safe strategy, and it's going to be very good for investment decisions. Now, let's go through the steps for doing fixed income analysis. First, you would do the exact same thing that we're doing, but we're going to adapt it a little bit. So we should start with an adapted strategic analysis, but over here we would focus on the downside risk. So the fixed incomes of strategic analysis is going to prioritize the implications of the strategic failures over this. We might also do critical event analysis. So these are going to be the key events that are going to increase the debt risks, such as issuing new debt, dividend policies, M&A, and capital expenditures, because all of these ones are going to be critical as they are going to increase the risk. So for strategic analysis, we're going to focus, as I was saying, on all possible risks. Second, for accounting analysis, we're going to do our version of adapted accounting analysis, and we're going to also do two main things. We're going to be assessing account manipulation. So this step is going to be similar to the one that we did. We're going to evaluate whether they are using their accounting practices to manipulate the statements, but in this case, we don't care if they're manipulating it to become more profitable, but if they're manipulating them to appear as less risky. So this might be like income smoothing or underestimating bad debt reserves or even delaying impairments. All of these bad practices would be showing the company as safe when it actually isn't safe. We might also do what is called the debt covenant analysis. And so this will reflect that the flexibility that a company has with its debt covenants is stable or not. Accounting manipulation will often occur when a company is near a covenant violation, because lenders may require static accounting options to prevent the manipulation that is in the statements. After we already analyze that the company is not manipulating its financial statements, then we'll go to the third step, the financial analysis, but in this case, again, we're going to adapt it for risk, so it's the adapted financial analysis.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
Here we'll emphasize on the risk of the ratios, so we'll focus on the liquidity, solvency, and coverage ratios. And we will also analyze the levels of variability, because if of these ratios is changing, the companies may be using accounting choices to change this ratio. So this is something that we should be watching for. And lastly, for the fourth part, we would do an adapted forecasting. And for this, you may be thinking, how do we do it even more risky? We're going to do a negative scenario forecasting. So this is going to involve like stress testing a company's future financial position, and it will often require a detailed line item forecast with a focus on the downside scenarios. After we've done all of these things, we're going to go to the bankruptcy prediction. And here we're going to use the two models that I was mentioning. We're going to use Altman's C-score and Olson's O-score to predict the bankruptcy possibilities. So the Altman C-score was developed by Edward Altman in 1968 and basically is a multivariate formula that will use financial ratios that you already have in order to predict the probability of bankruptcy. And the formula is very weird. I'll be showing it on the screen because I don't even want to read it. It is very weird to understand, but the interpretation is relatively simple. If the C-score is higher than 2.99, it means the company has a low risk of bankruptcy. Then, if the C-score is between 1.81 and 2.99, this is like a gray area, so it will be a moderate risk. But then, if the C-score is lower than 1.81, this means there is a high risk of bankruptcy. You can either generate the C-score yourself, or you can also just Google it or Yahoo Finance it, because this C-scores are already available for the public. So again, what I was telling you, you can either generate your own ratios or trust that the other companies that are doing it are doing them correctly. But since this one's a little bit more complicated, I would say you can do it. But if you already have your original ratios, then as you can see in the formula, you just have to plug in the numbers and it will give you the C-score. But what I have to say is that the C-score is used primarily for manufacturing firms. And so there are other adaptations for non-manufacturing firms that are a little bit more common. For example, the Olson O-score is going to be also a probabilistic model that estimates the likelihood of bankruptcy, but it incorporates a broader set of variables and does not assume linearity. So again, a super ugly formula. This one I'm going to put it again here. And what we have is an interpretation that means that the output is a probability from 0 to 1 that the firm will default, and higher scores are going to indicate a higher likelihood of bankruptcy. This one is a little bit more flexible than Altman C-scores because it's going to apply across industries and it accounts for nonlinear relationships between the variables and the bankruptcy. So this one is a little bit more used for different industries, and it could be recommended depending on the industry that you're analyzing. And after you have all of that, then you would be done with business analysis. Now you already have all of the good things, but also all of the bad things, and you are ready to know if this company is a good investment decision, and you will have a sufficient margin of safety because in case you're doing something wrong, at least you'll be safe from bankruptcy or from losing a lot of money. I hope these episodes were useful. If you like them, share them with someone else that you think would enjoy them, and give me a review or tell me in the comments what you thought. I'll see you next week because we're going to start learning about another of my MBA classes.